Hello, my dear folks. Welcome to the show, Jack Chow on East West Show with G&E TV. It's the new year, the first week of the year, and it is not too late for us to look into the new year, especially look into California business, California economy, how we may help California survive. We're surviving, we know. We're surviving. We've survived a little bit, but not that much yet. So, to put this concept all together as one of the top issue of the new year, though, we have to protect California economy by doing something smart, sober-minded, right? Other than that, we're just, making one step forward and we're dragging it back to where we started. Okay, one step forward, one step backward. Speaking of going backward, though, we have quite a tendency of having to be encountered with quite a few frivolous lawsuits. It's the legal system that causes it. And together, joining me are my wonderful friends, First Lady first, right? We have Mary Ann Maloney, and she is the founder and the CEO of California Going Against the Lawsuit Abuse. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you for having me.
During the past years, she and I would go back about 6 or 7 years.
Long time.
Yeah, long time, right? During the past 6, 7 years, we never put a respite in, calling for people to wake up, to be sober-minded, to think about not, destroying our own economy. So today is one of the show. At the start of the new year, we want to once again make it a wake-up call. And next to her is my good friend. He's a big guy. He's from a government agency, non-profit, however. He's the director of the Riverside Regional Small Minority Business Development Agency under the federal government.
Department of Commerce, yes.
Yeah, Department of Commerce. So it's a big agency, and I know you move big stuff, mighty projects around. So to both of you, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jack.
All right, good.
Pleasure being here.
All right. We know California is big, and California used to be even bigger than what we are now. With the partisanship going backward, left and right thing, we see lots of fight. We do not see quite much about California getting back to where we were several years ago. So one of the factors, at least the contributing factor, is the fact that we have a frivolous legal system, right? I would like to turn the microphone to Mary Ann, my backbone on this issue, to lay down the overall picture for my audiences about how badly California is being hit.
Well, thank you, Jack. Over these 7 years, we always continue to begin the new year with this very important topic. So thank you very much.
Sure.
And just this time of year, as in every year, the American Tort Reform Association releases its annual report of judicial hellholes, those states that rank high as being a litigious environment that makes it hard for business to do business here in California and create jobs. Because of that, I'm happy or unhappy to report that California remains very high at the top of the list of being a judicial hellhole.
Yeah, all right. We're still the champion.
We are still running the campaign, that's right.
I mean the champion.
Right. Continuing to be one of the worst places to do business in California.
Sure. And to Dan, I know that you and your folks at the office putting lots of efforts to promote California business, especially minority business, who are supposed to be the vulnerables or the more vulnerable business than those stronger ones. During the past year, we went together to some events, and I see how strongly your voices are to call people to support business growth, right? So, in your mind, though, how badly California is in need for the survival of the small business, especially minority business?
Well, Jack, not only does our state need the small businesses because some people say as much as 2/3 of the employment base is employed by small business owners. But actually the nation as well. A lot of small businesses are the ones who are doing all the hiring. And as you know, if you don't have people working out there, the economy is going to go nowhere. And when these small businesses are riddled with these frivolous lawsuits, they can't really afford to defend themselves. And it takes a big chunk out of their income just to, in a lot of cases, they have to settle. They can't afford to hire an attorney and fight.
Exactly. So, your past experiences, have you encountered a situation seeing small business going down or going south because they are hit by lawsuits?
A lot of times they just get run over and they can't recover. Other cases, it's totally frivolous and unfounded, the lawsuits, but because of the laws, the attorney just tells them you're better off settling because it's going to cost you too much and it'll put you out of business.
I see. All right. So that's very bad. It is very bad to see that. And the new year, starting the new year, we really wish to see something better, but yet there is nothing can be done unless something from the very upper end by legislation. Other than that, we do not see anything. So how is your voice going towards that way, please?
Well, I'm happy to report that for the first time, there is a bill to reform the Americans with Disabilities Act, the abusive types of lawsuits, that has bipartisan support. It's AB 52 and AB 54, sponsored by Assembly Republican leader Kirsten Olson out of the Modesto area, who is a Republican, along with Adam Gray, who is a Democrat. And because there's bipartisan report on this, we can be optimistic, because as you know, we've been here at this table for 10 years or so advocating for the reform of the abuse of the Americans with Disabilities Act, to first give that small business owner the chance to buy the right sign, should their sign not be the right sign, instead of being outright sued for upwards of $2,000 or $4,000 for not being in technical non-compliance. It only makes sense to give them the chance to buy the $50 sign instead of wiping out that business, wiping out that family, or wiping out the jobs that they're creating.
Sure. Exactly like Dan Su just pointed out, in most of the cases, they could not afford to defend themselves.
That's correct.
They just acquiesce and say, hey, let's settle, whatever. You want the money? Well, here's the money. Well, like that kind, right? So I don't think a sign would be that significant. You can't just, well, you don't have it today, you can always buy it in the afternoon, and next morning you post it up. Sign is a sign, right? So we're really making something. The law are really helping to make something, some bigger issues out of no issue at all, right? I never get a chance to sit down with you, Dan, to talk about the legal side, the legislative side of the story, though. Why would such an obvious issue not be overturned into the direction of helping small business rather than punishing them? Do you think there's something about culture?
Well,
legislative
I
culture?
think it is. You really need to have the desire of the legislature to change it. And to you and I, it's a simple solution. To have it done in Sacramento, that's a different story.
All right.
You really have to have the people behind it to push that agenda. A lot of your legislators have their own agenda to push, and they support or don't support different bills or changes for various reasons. So, to answer that question, we can only get it directly from them.
Yeah, and you know there are so many, just so many of that. You have the sign laws, you have the ADA laws, right? And you have the what kind of human issue laws, and you have the animal protection laws, and you put somebody's dog by the table, you get somebody else pissed off, right? And then by animal right, he is doing the right thing, and by human right, we see a fight here. Okay,
right.
So, when the law applies into a situation like that, we're already lost. So your comment about that, please.
Well, it just depends. We've been on so many different legislative visits, and while so many small businesses in a certain legislator's district are being sued and sued again, they'll, share with you their concern It's important, however, it's not a priority. When Daniel was telling that story, it reminded me of a certain legislator that was telling us just that this year it's all about the budget, and so that's what we're going to fix, and they're just going to let everything else go on. But at the same time, you also reminded me of a restaurant owner that's very involved in California Citizens Against Lawsuit Abuse, who had somebody come into his restaurant with a little 7-pound teacup white fluffy poodle. And the owner of this poodle wanted the poodle to have dinner with that person on the top of the dinner table. So what's the business owner to do? It only makes common sense that the dog might be better suited to have dinner outside. He'd be happy to give him a plate of food. If it's not, you know, the health department would be on him over here. But unfortunately, what happened is that the poodle owner went and sued him, cost him, you know, $100,000 because he had to fight it instead of settling, which, you know, he probably shouldn't have had to do either. But it cost him $100,000 to do that. Did he win with that amount of money, being a small businessman?
No.
You know, that would have bought a whole new restaurant, right?
And just paid money for nothing. Still lose the case. Still lose the case. Daniel says it very strongly that they could not afford to defend them. And he, in this case, he was one of the very lucky ones who could afford, and yet he still loses. What point does it make?
Either way, he loses.
Either way, he loses, right?
He may win the point, but he loses the money, or he might lose both.
Yeah, he lost both in the case.
He lost
the money. He lost the case, right? So, and we have to take a little break right now. When we come back, why don't you bring David Houston's story?
Okay.
To Daniel and also to my audiences. We look at you, I mean, we regard you as one of the agencies, government agencies, probably you can sometimes turn over to voice to them, say, hey, we need some attention, please. There is something crazy going on, right? So be a loudspeaker to them, let them know what's going on, but not only California, right? So let's take a short moment out. When we come back, we can continue with David Houston, who is not here, but his story is very vivid.